What happens when a genius dies? What happens to all his secrets? Well, for Nikola Tesla, one of the greatest minds of the 20th century, his death didn't just end a life, it kicked off a mystery that still echoes today. This is the incredible story of how the US government swooped in, seized a man's entire legacy, and then buried it in secrecy for decades.
And really, this is the question at the heart of it all. Just try to put yourself in that moment. It's the absolute peak of World War II. A man who claims he can build death rays and send power through the air without any wires dies alone in a hotel room. So, who gets to own his ideas? His family? Or a government that's literally fighting for survival?
So let's really set the scene here. We're in the middle of a global war. A war where technology isn't just an advantage, it's everything. And in a quiet New York hotel room, a man who just might hold the keys to the future has taken his very last breath.
The timing here is just absolutely critical. It's January 1943. The war is at a fever pitch. Every country is desperate, desperate, for some kind of technological edge. So when Nikola Tesla dies, the US government isn't just, mourning an inventor. They're looking at a potential goldmine of advanced weapons and a catastrophic security risk if those secrets fall into the wrong hands.
And listen, we're not talking about small ideas here. These were claims that sound like pure science fiction even today. A death ray, he called Teleforce. Can you imagine a weapon that could wipe out an entire army in a blink? A global system for wireless electricity that would make the entire power grid obsolete. He even claimed to have a new theory of gravity. So, was he a true visionary or just a brilliant mind who lost his way? The government had to find out, and fast.
So did the government wait around? Not a chance. This wasn't treated like a typical death investigation. No, what happened next was a rapid, calculated, almost military-style operation to get their hands on every single piece of his life's work. You've basically got this fascinating three-way struggle for control. First, you have the Office of Alien Property, the OAP, and they're providing the legal cover for the whole thing. Then you've got J. Edgar Hoover's FBI, who are just intensely paranoid about foreign spies and want to lock down any potential superweapon. And then, caught right in the middle, is Tesla's own nephew, Sava Kosinovich, who just wants to do right by his uncle and secure his family's inheritance.
And you can see just how seriously they took this. This was anything but casual. Within hours of his death being discovered, agents were in that room. They didn't just take a few notes, they seized everything. Every document, every blueprint, every model from his safe, and then poof, it was all whisked away to be picked apart by top-secret military evaluators.
For Tesla's nephew, this must have felt like a complete nightmare. Imagine, you show up to claim your family's inheritance, and instead of sympathy, you're met with suspicion. You're stonewalled. You're treated like a potential spy. In the eyes of the US government, he wasn't a grieving relative. He was a foreign diplomat trying to get his hands on state secrets. National security trumped everything else. Period.
And right after the seizure, this thick curtain of silence just falls. For decades, the government didn't just control the physical papers, they controlled the entire story about what was in them.
Okay, and this is where the story gets really juicy. This is the heart of the whole contradiction. The official story, the one they told the public, was that the FBI's experts took a look and found, quote, nothing of significant value, just the wild ideas of an old man. But behind the scenes, it was a totally different story. The most sensitive documents, especially the death ray stuff, were being secretly funneled to top defense labs for intense analysis. They were playing a double game. So then, in 1952, after a long legal battle, the government finally agrees to release most of the materials to Tesla's nephew. They get packed up and shipped off to a museum in Belgrade, Yugoslavia. Now, on the surface, that looks like a win for the family, right? But in reality, it was an absolutely brilliant strategic move. By sending his work to a communist country during the Cold War, they basically exiled it, locking it away behind the Iron Curtain, where no Western scientist could easily get to it for decades.
For years, that was pretty much the end of the story. It was a cold case. But then, a new legal tool came along that gave regular citizens the power to start picking the locks on the government's secret file cabinets.
It's called the Freedom of Information Act, or FOIA. And what it does is it gives any person the right to request access to federal agency records. So naturally, investigators and historians started asking one very big question. What was really in the FBI's secret file on Nikola Tesla?
And what they found, wow,
It was a bombshell. The declassified files confirmed everything people had suspected for years. There were internal memos from a paranoid J. Edgar Hoover. There were crystal-clear directives about the seizure. And it all proved, without a shadow of a doubt, that this was never about settling some old inventor's estate. It was a targeted intelligence operation from the very beginning.
So, now that we know all of this, we have to ask the really big question. What was the price of all this secrecy? What did we, as a civilization, actually lose when Tesla's work was hidden away?
Because here's the thing. Even with all the FOIA requests, the story still isn't over. Not by a long shot. The most critical documents, the actual technical reports from the military labs that analyzed his weapons and energy concepts, have never been fully released. We know they exist, but what they concluded remains a state secret to this day.
And that just throws us right back to that massive ethical dilemma we started with, doesn't it? How do you possibly balance a government's duty to protect its country in wartime against the potential for one person's genius to benefit all of humanity? There's just no easy answer to that. Where do you draw the line?
But we can see the potential cost. Many experts argue that by classifying and just dismissing Tesla's research on wireless energy, the government may have set that entire field of science back by 50 years, maybe more. Just imagine for a second where we might be today if that research had been out in the open all this time.
Ultimately, the story of the Tesla papers is this powerful, cautionary tale. It's about what happens when fear of the unknown becomes more powerful than our faith in discovery. In the frantic rush to control a potential weapon, did we end up losing a technological revolution? It really makes you wonder, what other world-changing ideas might be locked away right now in a government file somewhere?